Timothy and I met 8 years ago in the most unexpected way. Stranded at a tiny diner during that massive flood back in 2016. The roads were shut down, no cell service, and nowhere to go. We ended up spending 6 hours playing cards with locals. And even in the middle of all that chaos, he had me laughing the whole time. When the signal finally came back, we exchanged Instagrams. A month later, we were dating. 2 years after that, married. Now we have a daughter, Avery. She's 6 years old and full of energy, dancing, leaping off furniture no matter how many times I ask her not to. A few months ago, she came home from school, talking nonstop about her friend Olivia, who's in dance class. Real ballet shoes, a real teacher. She begged me to sign her up too. I thought it sounded perfect. Avery has so much energy and creativity. Dance felt like a great outlet. But when I brought it up to Timothy that night, his reaction surprised me. He looked up from his phone, let out this short laugh, not amused, more like dismissive, and said we couldn't afford luxuries like that on just his income. If I wanted to sign her up, maybe I should contribute more financially. That hit me hard. After Avery was born, we'd agreed I'd switch to part-time so I could be there for her. And as far as I knew, we weren't struggling. We lived modestly. Small house, older cars paid off. No big vacations, sure. But dance class? It didn't seem out of reach. Still, he opened our banking app and pointed out how little was left after bills. Something about those numbers felt off, but I didn't know enough to push back. He's always handled the finances. So, I found a second job. Picked up evening shifts at a diner near home. I worked during the day, then waitressed at night. It was exhausting. I'd come home sore, smelling like fryer grease, barely able to keep my eyes open. And when I mentioned being tired, Timothy told me I hadn't earned the right to feel that way since I barely contributed. His exact words. I bit my tongue. I reminded myself it was for Avery, for those dance classes. But 3 months passed. Still no dance. Every time I asked, there was a new excuse. The class was full. Wait until the next session. We needed to save just a bit more. Meanwhile, I started noticing little things. Avery would talk about going places, like the zoo on nights I worked. She'd come home with new toys I didn't recognize. And then she started mentioning someone named Lisa. Daddy's friend, she said. When I asked Timothy, he brushed it off. Said Lisa was a coworker going through a tough time and sometimes hung out with them for company. She's good with kids, he said. Okay, maybe. But then Avery started saying things that made me uneasy. She said Lisa takes better pictures than Mommy. Asked if Lisa could come to her birthday. Once she even called me Mira. I asked where that came from. She said, "That's what Lisa calls you." That stopped me cold. I checked Timothy's socials. Nothing. No Lisa on Instagram. Nothing on Facebook either. And when I brought her up again, he got defensive. Said I was imagining things. That there was nothing to talk about. But 3 months ago, something changed. I came home early. Slow night at the diner. The house was empty. His car was gone. He didn't answer texts. Finally, he replied, they were grabbing ice cream. An hour later, they walked in. Avery had on a brand new outfit I'd never seen. She was bubbling with excitement about a movie they'd gone to see. Not ice cream, a movie. And from the way she talked, it was obvious Lisa was there too. Later that night, when Avery was asleep, I asked him about it. Why the lie? Why the new clothes? Why couldn't we afford dance classes, but somehow movie nights and gifts were no problem? And who exactly was Lisa? That's when he looked at me, completely different, cold, and said, "Maybe if you were more fun, she'd still call you Mommy." I didn't even respond, just nodded and walked away. That was 5 months ago. Since then, I've been watching, quietly, carefully, and I've started noticing a pattern. Timothy's work dinners always land on my nights off. Avery mentions sleeping at Lisa's sometimes when I work late. And no matter how tired I am, no matter how hard I work, I can't unsee it anymore. Things started unraveling faster than I could process. I noticed charges on our shared credit card. Fancy restaurants, movie tickets. All on nights Timothy said he was working late. Suddenly he had new clothes, a sleek smartwatch. But somehow, Avery's 60-month dance class was still too much. Last week, I was helping Avery tidy her room when I found a bundle of photos hidden in the back of her drawer. They weren't just casual snapshots. These were full-on family moments. Timothy, Avery, and a woman I didn't recognize. At amusement parks, a water park, even what looked like a holiday gathering. There were dates written on the back. This had been going on for over a year. Before I even picked up my second job. The woman, Lisa, I assumed, Looked like she walked straight out of a curated lifestyle feed. Perfect hair, perfect smile, effortless outfits that probably cost what I make in a week. And in one photo, Avery was wearing a full ballet outfit. Real dance shoes, real tutu. That picture was dated a year ago, so he had taken her to classes. Just never told me. And she never mentioned it until Olivia brought it up again. That means, while I was losing sleep over every dollar and stretching myself thin to make room in our budget, he was quietly giving Avery everything she wanted, with someone else. And then, yesterday morning, Avery looked up from her cereal and asked, as casually as if she were asking for more milk, "Is Lisa going to be my new mommy soon?" I nearly dropped my coffee mug. I asked her why she thought that. She shrugged and said, "Because Daddy and Lisa are special friends, and when I stay at her house, she sleeps in Daddy's room." I didn't react. I couldn't. I just smiled and told her to get ready for school. But inside, I was burning. I haven't confronted Timothy yet. Not because I'm afraid, but because I need to be smart. I can't afford a dramatic scene, not when Avery's watching. So here's what I did. I started collecting everything. Every photo, every receipt, every slip-up. I switched my work schedule to align with Avery's more. And I booked an appointment with a lawyer. I'm done. Done being manipulated. Done working double shifts while someone else lives the life I was promised. Done letting my daughter slip further away from me. Then came the first real discovery. I'd planned to request our financial records, but realized there was a faster way. Timothy had set up all the online banking years ago, and I didn't even have the login anymore. The password I remembered didn't work. Instead of asking and raising suspicion, I went straight to our bank branch during lunch. At first, the teller gave me that polite, doubtful look. But once I showed my ID and confirmed I was a joint account holder, she changed completely. Helpful, kind, even a little concerned. What she printed out made my stomach turn. For the past 18 months, Timothy had been regularly moving money, $300 to $500 at a time, into a separate account. One I'd never heard of. Transfers happened like clockwork on the first of every month. Some months had extras, usually lining up with the so-called work trips. Altogether, over $20,000 in just 1 year. $20,000? And all the while I was dragging myself to a second job because we supposedly couldn't afford Avery's dance class. That's less than what he transferred in a single day sometimes. But it didn't stop there. That same account showed charges at restaurants we've never been to, hotels in nearby cities. One purchase from a jewelry store that rang up over $1,000. On the same week, my Christmas gift from him was a $20 scarf, which I had appreciated because I believed we were on a tight budget. When I got home, I did something I'd never done before. I opened his desk drawers. My hands were shaking the whole time, like I was the one doing something wrong. But what I found? Plane tickets, Florida, 3 months ago, 2 names on the itinerary, Timothy and Lisa Harrington. He told me he was at a training seminar that week. I even packed his bag. Then I found a property tax statement, a condo, registered only under his name. I'd never heard of it, never been there. And then it hit me. That's not Lisa's house Avery stays at. It's their condo, a whole second life, just across town. At first, I thought maybe we really were just struggling. Tight finances, tough timing. But now, I see it for what it was, a way to keep me busy, tired, out of the way. If I was working every night, then she, Lisa, got to be the one doing bedtime stories, making pancakes, playing mom. That second job I took? It wasn't about covering dance class. It was about creating space, removing me from my own home, my own daughter's routine. That realization hit hard. I spent the entire afternoon in this numb, mechanical state, snapping photos of every piece of paper I found, putting everything neatly back like I'd never touched it. Then I just sat on the back porch, staring out at nothing until it was time to pick up Avery from school. She came running out, her face lit up when she saw me. Not Timothy. He usually does Wednesday pickups. That moment right there, it made something click. No more missed bedtimes. No more school events without me there. No more letting someone else quietly take my place. That night, I called the diner and rearranged my shifts. Early mornings only, before Avery's even awake. Just 2 evenings on weekends when she's with friends. It's less money, but I'd rather live on instant noodles than miss another second of her growing up. When I told Timothy about the schedule change, he looked caught off guard, asked if I was planning to quit the second job altogether. I just smiled and said I wanted more time with Avery. He looked uneasy, mumbled something about how we still needed the extra income. I shrugged and said I'd figure it out. The very next day, I picked up Avery from school and took her out for ice cream. Just us. At first, she was almost quiet, unsure, like she didn't know how to act around me anymore. That broke something in me. But by the time we were halfway through our Sundays, she was back, chatting nonstop about school and her friends. So I asked casually if she still wanted to take dance. Her entire face lit up. I didn't even hesitate. Drove straight to the studio Olivia attends and signed her up for the next 3 months, paid in full, using the tips I'd been quietly saving. When I told Avery, she jumped up and down in the parking lot, squealing. Then she asked when she could tell Lisa. I kept my tone steady and just said, Lisa doesn't need to know everything. This can be our thing, just you and me. Her first class was that weekend. I bought her a real leotard and the soft ballet slippers she'd been dreaming about. When we came home, Timothy noticed the bag and asked where the money came from. I told him I'd been saving for something special. He didn't say much, but I could tell he didn't like it. Over the next few weeks, I kept digging, found Lisa's Instagram. Private, but the profile picture matched the woman from the photos. Then her LinkedIn. She works at Timothy's company. Of course. The condo I didn't know about? Bought just 2 months after he told me to work extra shifts because things were tight. Every detail just made me more focused. I started moving small amounts from my tip money into a new account under my name at a separate bank. Quietly, asked my mom to hold on to copies of everything I'd gathered. I told her Timothy and I were going through a rough patch. Didn't give her the full picture, not yet. Last Tuesday, I had a consultation with a lawyer. I laid it all out. The finances, the property, the trips, the other woman. She took notes, listened carefully, then asked me a question that stopped me cold. What do you want? I hadn't let myself say it out loud. But in that moment, I knew. I want Avery back. Completely, without confusion. I want financial independence. No more relying on someone who lies to my face. I want peace. I want to stop doubting what I know is real. I want Lisa out of the picture. And I want Timothy to answer for everything. She nodded and told me we had options. With what I'd already collected, I had a strong case for a fair and stable future. She told me to keep documenting, but not to tip my hand too early. And Avery? She's smiling again. She asks me to help her practice dance steps. And last week, after months of calling me by my name, she called me Mommy again. I excused myself to the bathroom so she wouldn't see me cry. Meanwhile, Timothy's been off, jittery, checking his phone constantly, coming home later, leaving earlier. And just yesterday, I heard him on the phone in the backyard, speaking in that low, tight voice people use when they don't want to be heard. I caught fragments like asking questions and need more time. I didn't react. I just kept listening, because now, I'm done playing defense, and he has no idea what's coming next. Something shifted, and not in the way I expected. Timothy came home from work visibly agitated, pacing the kitchen while I prepped dinner. He kept checking his watch, eyes darting toward me, restless. Finally, he snapped. Asked when I was going to give up the dance class nonsense, calling it an unnecessary expense. I didn't even look up, just kept chopping vegetables and calmly said that Avery loved her class. And I'd already paid for 3 months in advance. That's when he slammed his hand on the counter, loud enough to rattle the plates in the rack. Demanded to know where I got the money. I finally met his eyes, knife still in hand, and told him I'd been saving tips from my shifts, that it was my money, earned with my time, and I had every right to spend it on our daughter. His face froze in this strange expression, like he couldn't decide whether to yell or retreat. In the end, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. A minute later, I heard little footsteps on the stairs. Avery peeked in, wide-eyed, and asked where Daddy went. I hugged her and said, he just needed some air. We ended up turning it into a girls' night. Pizza, painting our nails, and dancing around the living room practicing her new moves. Timothy didn't come home until past midnight. I pretended to be asleep when he crept in. The next morning, I got a text from Timothy's mom. She wanted to confirm if we were still coming to their anniversary party next weekend. She said they were excited to see us, and casually that Timothy's friend Lisa would be there too. His parents were looking forward to meeting Lisa. I read the message twice. His parents' anniversary, a family event, and he'd invited Lisa. Not as a secret guest. Apparently, they already knew her. Believed she was just helping out. I responded, smiling to myself, that of course we'd be there, and how nice it would be to meet Lisa in person. Screenshot saved. Then I called my lawyer, because if there was ever a moment to end this charade, it was coming up fast. A setting where Timothy couldn't make a scene, where his parents and Lisa would all be in the same room, and I could finally stop pretending I didn't see what's been happening right in front of me. My lawyer called it bold, but viable. She told me to bring printed copies of key financial documents. Something undeniable. Something concrete. I started building what my mom would call a U folder. Everything neatly organized. Bank transfers, property papers, photos, receipts. Evidence that wouldn't just raise questions, it would answer them. No more playing waitress while my husband builds a second life. No more confusion over where the money went. No more letting someone else ease into my daughter's life while I'm too exhausted to push back. That was 4 days ago. Now I'm writing this from my mom's guest room. It's 2 a.m. and I haven't been able to sleep, because in less than 24 hours we walk into that anniversary party. But something happened yesterday that I didn't expect, and it's thrown me off more than I want to admit. I called Timothy's mom. It's not something I usually do. He's always the one who talks to his family. But I wanted to feel her out. Casually, I mentioned how I was looking forward to finally meeting Lisa at the party and asked what she thought of her. There was a long pause on the other end. Then she said something that hit like a punch. She told me that Timothy had explained Lisa was helping with Avery, that I'd been too overwhelmed balancing work and parenting, and Lisa was just stepping in to ease the burden. She said it with sympathy. Sympathy for Lisa, as if she were the one doing something generous. She even mentioned that Lisa had been over for dinner a few weeks ago, while I was working a late shift. At the diner, the one I took to support our family. I ended that call quickly, said something polite, hung up, and then sat in the Target parking lot screaming into my coat for 5 straight minutes. After that, I called my mom. I hadn't told her everything before. She lives 3 hours away and I didn't want to worry her. But this? I couldn't do alone anymore. I told her everything, every last detail. She was furious, at Timothy and at me, for not saying anything sooner. She wanted to come immediately. I told her I needed to handle the party first. We compromised. She'd come the day after to help with Avery while I dealt with whatever fallout was coming. That gave me clarity. I've been focused on 3 things: rebuilding my bond with Avery, finishing my evidence file, and preparing for the moment when I stop pretending. With Avery, I've thrown myself all in. I even joined that parent class at the dance studio I'd been avoiding. And now? Tomorrow's the day. Honestly, I'm terrible at dancing. I have the coordination of a baby giraffe, and Avery thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. She takes it seriously, though, teaching me the steps from class like a tiny, focused instructor. It's become our little ritual, something just for the 2 of us. This past Wednesday, I picked her up early from school, and we went for ice cream. While we were sitting there with our sundaes, she asked me something that quietly shattered me all over again. She looked up and asked, "Are you mad that I like Lisa?" I had to pause for a moment before I answered. Took a deep breath. Then I told her, gently but clearly, that I could never be upset with her for caring about someone. That the things happening between grown-ups, between me, her dad, and Lisa, weren't her fault, and never would be. She seemed relieved, but then came the next question, one that dropped like a stone in my chest. She asked if Lisa was going to live with them at the other house all the time now. I asked her what she meant by the other house. With perfect innocence, she described a place where she sometimes stays. A house with a soft pink bedroom full of toys, more than she has at home, a toothbrush with unicorns on it, a pool in the building, Mickey Mouse pancakes, and just like that, the pieces locked together. The condo, the property in Timothy's name. That wasn't just Lisa's space. It was their space, a fully built second life, where they'd created a fantasy world for Avery, a world I never even knew existed. That night, once Avery was asleep, I laid everything out on the kitchen table. Every document I'd collected, bank transfers, the condo paperwork, photos, screenshots, it became what my lawyer called a divorce documentation packet. I made multiple copies, digital and physical. One went to my mom, one is in my personal email, another in a private cloud account Timothy doesn't know about. And then, for reasons I didn't fully understand in the moment, I got in my car and drove by the condo. I didn't plan to go inside or confront anyone. I just needed to see it. Needed to look at the place where my husband had been building a parallel life. It's in one of those new luxury developments downtown. Boutique shops on the first floor, upscale apartments stacked above. Exactly the kind of place that costs more per month than we spend on our mortgage. The next day, Timothy started acting different. He came home from work early, which never happens. Started asking me oddly specific questions about my shifts, who watches Avery when I'm out, whether my mom had plans to visit soon. At one point, he picked up my phone and asked if I'd changed the passcode. I hadn't. I'd been careful not to break any routines. I told him he must have misremembered. He tried it again, unlocked it, scrolled through something quickly, then set it down like it meant nothing. That night, he suggested we talk. He never wants to talk. Not about real things. But suddenly, he was saying we could work through this phase. Said maybe I should consider cutting back at the diner, that the job was causing stress for everyone. I nodded, said I'd think about it. But inside, I knew. He was on to me. Either Lisa saw me near the condo, or his mom mentioned our call. Maybe he noticed one of the documents I borrowed and quietly returned. But his behavior had changed, and that meant it was time. Friday morning, yesterday, I woke up and found Timothy already gone. His side of the bed looked untouched. Avery said he'd left before she woke up. Strange for a weekday. After school drop-off, I met with my lawyer for a final strategy session before the anniversary party. We reviewed the documents, discussed how to approach the confrontation, and talked about the likely fallout. She warned me that Timothy might try to deflect, deny, twist the truth, maybe even turn his family against me. But she also said the evidence I had made it extremely difficult for him to explain anything away. When I got home, there were flowers on the counter, a bouquet of roses, with a card. I love our family. T. In 8 years of marriage, Timothy has sent me flowers exactly twice. Once when we were dating, and once after Avery was born. These weren't apology flowers. These were I know you know flowers. I put them in the guest bathroom, shut the door, moved on with my day. But by the time I picked up Avery from school, I had 17 missed calls, all from Timothy. I texted back, saying my phone had been on silent during a meeting and asked if everything was okay. He called immediately, asked where I was, where Avery was. His voice was tense, panicked. I told him we were heading to the mall to find an outfit for Avery, for his parents' anniversary party. He calmed down immediately, said he'd be home for dinner, asked if we could have a family night. I told him that sounded great, and that evening, he came through the door with pizza and ice cream, like everything was normal, like nothing was about to change. That evening, Timothy went all in on the super dad routine, playing games with Avery, helping with her homework, even offering to do bath time. It was like watching someone audition for Father of the Year. Every move carefully performed, every word a little too polished. After Avery went to bed, he sat beside me on the couch, closer than he's chosen to be in months. He started talking about maybe planning a family vacation. Just the three of us. How he'd been thinking about our future. How Avery needs both of her parents. I didn't say much. Just watched him act like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't seen everything. At one point, he reached for my hand. I let him. Not because I wanted to, but because pulling away felt more dramatic than I could deal with right then. His hand was damp with nerves. He asked if I was still planning to go to his parents' anniversary party the next day. I smiled. Of course. Why wouldn't I? He looked genuinely relieved, almost laughably so. Then he said very casually that Lisa probably wouldn't be coming after all. Some family emergency. I nodded. That's too bad, I said. I was really looking forward to meeting her. The next morning, I woke up to find Timothy watching me. Not in a loving way, in a checking, calculating way. When I opened my eyes, he pretended he was just getting out of bed. Asked if I wanted breakfast. If we should take Avery to the park before heading to the party. I smiled again. Sounds nice. Then I went to take a shower, and when I came out, I caught him scrolling through my phone. Again. He didn't see me at first. I stood in the hallway, just watching. When I cleared my throat, he jumped like I'd slapped him. Nearly dropped my phone. That's when I knew. I needed a backup plan. After breakfast, I told him I had to run a quick errand to grab a gift for his parents. Instead, I drove straight to my mom's house. Told her everything from the past few days. How he was watching me, snooping, getting nervous. I asked if she could come back with me today, not tomorrow. She didn't even hesitate. Packed a bag in 10 minutes, and we drove back together. When we pulled into the driveway, Timothy was already on the porch, arms folded, face pale. When he saw my mom in the passenger seat, something shifted behind his eyes. The rest of the afternoon was surreal. He tried to charm my mother, polite, overly helpful, while sending me panicked glances when she wasn't looking. She smiled but stayed cool. I acted normal, like none of this was happening, while mentally going over my plan for the next day. I told him I'd be staying at my mom's that night, said she needed help setting up for a brunch she was hosting. He tried to argue, but with her standing right there, he didn't have a leg to stand on. So now here I am, back in my mom's guest room. I've got my folder, my evidence, my clothes laid out for tomorrow. The anniversary party starts at 3 p.m. Timothy thinks I'm meeting him there. His parents are expecting all of us. Avery will be with me. My lawyer is on standby. And Lisa? Something tells me she'll be there despite Timothy's story. I'm ready. The documents speak for themselves. I know some people might say confronting him in front of his family is harsh, but after months of lies, manipulation, and letting another woman play mother to my daughter, I'm done protecting his feelings. His parents deserve to know the truth, and I deserve to reclaim my dignity, on my terms. Final update. It's been 3 weeks since the party. I've tried writing this a dozen times. Started, deleted, started again. It's been hard to find the right words. But I owe this update to everyone who reached out with kindness. I've read all of your messages, even if I haven't had the strength to reply yet. That day didn't go exactly as I imagined. Mom and I arrived just after 3. Avery was in her little dress, holding my hand. Timothy was already outside pacing the driveway. He looked wrecked, unshaven, shirt wrinkled, hands fidgeting like he couldn't sit still. The second I opened the car door, he was at my side saying we needed to talk, alone, now. I didn't want Avery to see anything messy, so I calmly said I'd head in first and greet his parents. I walked right past him, into the house. Inside, everything felt familiar, cozy. The walls were covered in photos. 40 years of marriage, family gatherings, smiles frozen in time. Maybe 20 people were there, chatting over drinks and appetizers. His mom saw us and rushed over, hugged Avery, complimented her dress, then turned to me and said she was so glad I'd made it, because Timothy told her I might be stuck at work. That stung. He'd been laying groundwork, excuses, just in case I didn't show. I told her I'd adjusted my schedule weeks ago to be there. She hesitated. I could see the doubt flicker across her face before she smiled and moved on. I had the folder with me, the one I'd spent hours building. Bank transfers, condo paperwork, photos of Timothy and Lisa with Avery, all of it. When people started gathering for lunch, I approached his mom. I handed her the folder and said, "This is something you should see. It's about our family." She opened it and began flipping through. Her face changed. First confusion, then disbelief, then something like heartbreak, and Timothy, standing nearby, reached for it. Timothy tried to speak, stumbling over his words. "It's not what it looks like," he said, but his dad took the folder from his mother and began reading for himself. He didn't say anything at first, just kept turning page after page in complete silence. Timothy kept talking, saying the money was for something else, claiming the photos were old. But it all sounded weak, like someone trying to rewrite the truth in real time. Finally, his father looked up. "Is this all true?" Timothy hesitated, then mumbled something about our marriage being difficult. But it didn't land. Not in a room full of family and photos from Christmases we'd spent smiling together. His mom asked why I hadn't come to them sooner. I told her the truth. I'd only just uncovered the full extent of it all. She nodded slowly, but I could see the conflict in her face. She wasn't ready to absorb it. Not yet. Then the doorbell rang, and there she was, Lisa. She walked in holding a gift bag, smiling like she belonged there, like she was part of the celebration. Timothy went pale, rushed over and started whispering to her, trying to convince her to leave. She looked past him and saw me, hesitated, said nothing, but his sister wasn't having it. She got to Lisa first, looked her right in the eye and asked, "Did you know Timothy was married?" Lisa froze. Said yes, but he told her we were separated, that we were only staying in the same house for Avery's sake. His sister held up a photo from the folder, our family, together at Christmas, less than a year ago. "Does this look separated to you?" she asked. Lisa didn't answer. She left a few minutes later, Timothy following close behind, promising he'd explain everything later. Avery never saw any of it, thankfully. She was in the backyard the entire time, playing with my mom and a few cousins, completely unaware. Later, Timothy's dad came over to me. Quiet, measured. He asked if everything I'd shown them was accurate. I said yes. He nodded. "I'm sorry," he said. That was all. His mom hovered, mingling with guests, but I caught her watching me several times, like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Eventually, she asked if we could talk privately later. I told her I had to get Avery home. I thanked them for having us, apologized for the way things turned out, and we left. His dad shook my hand. His mom gave me a short, uncertain hug. That night, Timothy called over and over. I didn't answer. The next morning, I was at my lawyer's office signing the first round of divorce paperwork. It's not over. Not even close. We've filed for temporary custody of Avery, but Timothy's pushing back, accusing me of trying to keep him away from her. He moved out a few days later, showed up while I was at work, took his clothes and some things from the garage. I assume he's living at the condo now. I haven't asked. Avery has been the hardest part. She still asks where he is, why he doesn't come home. I tell her the truth, in pieces she can handle, that we're living apart now, but that we both love her deeply. Some days she accepts it. Other days she curls up next to me and cries, asking if they're mad at her. Once, she asked if Lisa would still make her pancakes. That nearly broke me. I've cut back my diner shifts. Just early mornings now, so I can be there for Avery after school. The money's tight. Timothy's supposed to provide support, but nothing's official until the court rules. And the court is slow. I'm making it work. Barely, but I am. Dance class continues. She loves it too much to give it up. Watching her there, smiling, spinning in those tiny slippers, it keeps me going. On the hard days, it's the only thing that does. Timothy's shown up twice at the diner since that night. The first time, he stood by the counter, bags under his eyes, asking if we could talk. I told him I was working and walked away. My manager asked him to leave when he wouldn't. The second time, he waited outside after my shift. Said he'd made a mistake. Said he wanted to fix things. I told him I couldn't do this anymore, and I walked to my car. He's texted a few times since. Short messages. I miss you. I miss Avery. I haven't replied. Last Sunday, his parents called. His mom asked how Avery was doing. Said they hadn't realized how bad things had gotten. Her voice was quiet, sad, maybe even a little ashamed. She didn't say much more. I told her I didn't blame them, but I needed time. That's all I could offer. I don't know what they've said to Timothy since. Right now, I'm trying to rebuild. Some days are okay. I make dinner. Avery helps me stir the sauce. We practice her dance steps in the living room. I feel steady, capable. Other days, I drop her off at school and sit in the car for 20 minutes crying, still stunned that this is my life now. The divorce will take months, maybe longer. And there's still the money, the account, the transfers, the secrets. But a few days ago, my lawyer found something. Turns out Timothy had been taking side contracts through work, extra jobs he never disclosed, quiet deposits, month after month. That's how he paid for the condo, the gifts, the flights, all of it. While I was counting crumpled diner tips to buy Avery ballet shoes, he was funding a second life. But he doesn't get to keep it. Not anymore.